Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
What's my name again? And welcome, Whovians, to this week's breakdown, reaction, discussion of episode 6 of Doctor Who called Dot and Bubble. Bonus, since we were at Phoenix Fan Fusion last weekend having way too much fun, we're also going to talk about 73 Yards from last week. And then maybe some wild speculation.
All right.
Let's start with 73 Yards. I want to spend a couple minutes on it just because we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week.
Okay.
This was the horror episode we've talked about in previous episodes, episode reviews and whatever. We always get at least one Doctor Who horror episode a season.
Yep.
This was the Doctor Who horror episode. Another instant banger.
Yeah. I really liked it.
It's close to Boom. They're in similar conversations.
Yeah.
I think.
All right. Yeah.
It was interesting to spend a doctorless episode.
Yeah. Those happen every once in a while too. Yeah, where you just kind of get to, especially in the beginning, so you kind of get to know the companions.
Yeah.
And it was refreshing that, it's kind of a trope, like the companion doesn't have to be a girl or a guy, but you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere. You walk to this village, you have no money, you have no way to, pay for anything, and she just whips out her phone and, can I pay with my phone because I don't have any cash on me? Like, I am not lost. I am in my own home. I don't have any cash on me.
Right.
I would pay with my phone. And so, she walks in and I'm like, uh-oh, she doesn't have any money.
Right.
And then she's like, can I use my phone? And then they all kind of make a joke about it. You want to pay with your phone?
Yeah.
So then you're confused because you're like, did they time travel? Like, is she not in the now?
Right.
Because you don't know. It's in this sleepy little town in Wales, right? And then they all bust out laughing and hand her the tap to pay terminal.
And it is very interesting because at that point in time, you have the woman following her.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor's gone, like disappeared, gone. The TARDIS is still there. So you have this kind of uneasiness that the doctor just all of a sudden left.
Yep. And the TARDIS is locked and her key isn't working.
And the key isn't working. And then she goes to this little village and it's that's a tension building thing until they all start laughing.
Yeah.
And then so then you kind of relax for a second.
Yep.
And then the one guy goes out and tries to talk to the woman who's following Ruby, and he sprints off.
He screams
And sprints off. So then the tension's back up again.
Yep.
So it's this up and down roller coaster of going on, and then we get Kate Stewart, and she hears what it's 5 years later, I think they said, or 4 years later.
Yeah, I think it's 5 years by the time she gets with Kate.
Yeah, and they talk about how she's got a camera, and they try to do a zoom on it, and unit shows up and all everything. And so Kate gets wigged out and runs away.
Mm-hmm.
Adding the kind of backstory of 2036 or whatever it was when the Welsh guy wins prime minister and starts the nuclear war, and then Ruby ends up finding out that she's in that kind of timeline, and she goes and works for his campaign, and the resolution is she uses this person who's been following her entire life, is always there. She's embraced this figure as part of her life, and she uses it to make the prime minister dude from Wales run away.
Yep.
And then she lives her full life, is on her deathbed, and the woman is in the room. She turns around and it's her, and that transition of her trying to reach out to herself, but now she's on the other end after they leave the TARDIS and they don't break the fairy circle.
Yeah.
It was just so well done. Ruby's mom leaving her.
Yeah.
And all,
it was heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking. And then her going through the relationship cycle and
Yeah. Especially you just have this woman that's like, yeah, how do you
Yeah.
have a life?
It was such a banger of an episode.
Yeah,
Such a banger of
it
an
was
episode.
really good. Yep.
One of the things that was in that episode is Susan Twist was the hiker who Ruby comes across, is one of the first people to go and address the woman that's following her.
Yep.
So that would be episode 5, and then episode 6 is Dot and Bubble, which we're talking about now. She is like she's mommy.
She's yeah.
For Lindy. Lindy? I think her name was Lindy. And so I have a theory on that. We'll get to that to the end. Lindy, yeah, I was right. We'll get to that to the end about who I think she is. But she's been in every episode. That episode of 73 Yards, Moffat said that they, not Moffat, Davies said that they actually did research, and 73 Yards is the exact point where you can't quite make out somebody's face, but you know that there's somebody there. So they actually did research to make sure that that was the thing. So I thought it was very interesting.
That's cool. And 73 Yards, I think, was the first time that either the Doctor or Ruby actually said, "Don't I know you?"
Yeah.
So they've left it up to us, the audience, to go, that's the same woman. And now Ruby actually says, "Don't I know you?" And then in this episode, they both say it.
But they both say different people.
Yeah.
Like different people from the series.
Right, because she's been a different person every time.
Yeah.
So.
This episode, I should have looked. I can look it up. I wonder who wrote this one. Because okay, thanks IMDb with the pop-up ads. Everybody talks amongst yourself. It was Davies who wrote this one. Davies has some very interesting things that he wants to say about social media, being in your sphere of it being your phone or being on social media.
Yeah,
or
this was
whatever.
absolutely the social commentary episode.
Yeah.
Between the analogy of everybody walking around with their cell phones and nobody paying attention, to the point where you can't even walk by yourself without your phone telling you where to go, and you can't drive by yourself without your phone, without your Google directions, and nobody knows how to use a map anymore and all that stuff. I mean, so there's some definite social things that he's talking about there. There is also the class, I'm better than you conversation that he's having, that is very in your face at the very end, where she won't, Ruby and the Doctor are like, come with us and we can save you, because they're just going to eat you. Like, the mother world, home world, whatever, is gone. Right. Everybody's gone. Everything's gone. They're going to eat you. And they're like, no, we've got it. We're fine. We're privileged. Nobody's going to eat us.
Yeah.
And
there's also, when they announced that Jodie was leaving, we did a video about my concern about having a young black man be the Doctor. And how it could possibly limit storytelling. And now they haven't necessarily gone back in time where it's an issue yet.
Right.
But history of both the UK and the United States specifically has not been favorable to people of non-white backgrounds. I was hesitant. I love what Ncuti is doing with the Doctor, and I'm so glad that he is doing it, and I'm so glad that Davies isn't shying away from stuff.
Yeah.
But that thing at the end, yes, it was class, with the underlying of race, because everybody in her bubble was white.
Oh, yeah.
White and blonde, except for Goth Paul.
Right.
Everybody was white and blonde, and also from 17 to 22.
Yeah.
And her saying, the one guy saying, we can't go with you, we can't mix with you. was that was the trigger for me of
Right.
the race
I
thing.
think it all. I mean, yes, but it's not just race. It's a whole.
Yeah, absolutely, 1000%.
It's a whole. Social. You are not in my social class.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether even Ruby is white and blonde and in that age range,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't. She wasn't.
But she instantly blocked when the doctor came up. Blocked the doctor, and she only started to listen to Ruby.
Yeah.
When Ruby, now it was presented as Ruby was much more. Hi, I'm from. Central
She's trying to
Crossing," act the part of everybody else.
Yeah.
But when the doctor came up, it said unauthorized entry, and so it was like, for me, it was a hint maybe after the fact of like, no, you're somebody of color, but there's also that classism because they talked about how do you not know what's going on? Mommy paid for everything. I work 2 hours a day in the party all the time.
Yeah.
How do you party with that thing around your head the whole time? I've been to parties, and that's not where I want everything. I want to know here and doing nothing. The slug things eating everybody in order, in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
September. What was his name? September Tuesday. It wasn't September Tuesday.
Well, Cook was his actual last name.
It was his actual last name, yes.
But
he
Ricky September.
Ricky Sunday September.
Yeah.
He seemed like maybe the guy who kind of got in the door because he was an artist. He was a musician, and he seemed like a genuinely good person. He was there to help Lindy when things went really bad, even though that she was having a hard time operating without the dot and her bubble, her sphere of influence. But it wasn't until she said he changed his name to Cook that the dot went after him and not her.
Right.
So the sentientness of the dot learning, like coming to this, whoever you like, these people are so bad. Bad's a poor word, but they're such terrible people, so self-absorbed that those who are of the entitled part of the world always seem to have. Here's a person who's genuinely trying to be a good person, and they get stepped on,
right,
and or killed, because the sentientness of the dots have been like, I'm tired of these people's bull, and I just just a ton of different like layers of all the slug things eating people. Where did those come from? Because they ate Homeworld.
Yeah.
And everybody on the Homeworld is dead. So did they teleport here? You've got the class warfare. You got the race conversation. It's all these different layers. That's why we love Doctor Who so much.
Yeah.
Is that you can have these different layered conversations in the kind of campy, sometimes over the top ridiculousness that is Doctor Who.
Right. Yeah.
I think that all made sense. I was trying to work it out in my head as I was trying to say it all. So it's welcome to one of our reviews where we figure it out as we go along. The Doctor breaking down at the end.
Yeah.
This is the first time where we've really seen his anger. He's been sad.
Yeah.
And he's showed his emotions where he's cried. He cried in Boom.
Yeah.
Where he thought he wasn't going to be able to save the day. But him being angry at these people for not accepting his help when all that he's trying to do is help.
Right. Right. I mean, which is exactly the same thing with Ricky September. He was just trying to help.
Yeah.
But he wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
he came to be one of them, sort of, because he was a pop star, right?
Yeah.
Probably from, from lower class or whatever, but he's this pop star, so they
Yeah.
all worship him until it's him, and then she, turns him in.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So,
It was not on purpose, but I find it very interesting that this episode with Ricky September being kind of allowed into the fan club, and then when it was convenient to be tossed aside, comes out the same day that Eminem's new album comes out, new song came out, and he talks about being not really in the group of rappers
right.
because he's white.
Because he was white, yeah.
And I know it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose.
But timing.
But it's just sometimes the universe just works out that way.
Yeah.
That he talks about. Now, that's not the only thing he talks about in the song, and some people are upset with what he said. Watch the video. There's some things that he says in the song that matches with the video that you all need to about. But just him talking about that idea of I'm not really appreciated for what I can do and who I am, and having it tied in is just convenient.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like this is the fifth time. This is episode 5, 6. This is like the fifth time that the universe, the writing that Davies did 2.5 years ago, and the filming of the show a year and a half ago matches up perfectly with what the headlines are going on this week. Now, if the next one is called 34, I am telling Davies that he's a time traveler and he has a TARDIS.
Maybe he is. Maybe he's actually the Doctor.
If he's actually, that makes a ton of sense. The next one is the Bridgerton episode.
Yes.
With Jonathan Groff.
Yes.
If Jonathan does not sing, why are we even here?
Right. It's a waste of an opportunity.
It's and Chuti and Jonathan singing together.
Oh, yeah.
God, I wanted it so much.
Yes.
Oh, we also got the first hint of the Doctor's orientation. The Doctor has been very fluid throughout their time and whatever. Yeah. But he was flirting with Ricky September a little bit.
Yeah.
And Ruby fixing her hair because he was on the screen.
I think they said when Ncuti first kind of was chosen that they would play with that, that it would be fluid, and it always has been.
Yeah.
And they made a big point of it with the split, the Doctor going from male to female, and then back to male, and then splitting apart.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they've also talked about maybe Ruby being that way too, which I think is going to be very interesting when they bring Varda back next season, the one from Boom, who's So she is going to be another companion next year,
or
next
at least
season.
Somebody semi-constant.
Yes.
In and out.
Yes. And everybody said that that Millie is leaving the show after one season, and then they came out with a set photo of the three of them together.
She's not.
They're going to complete Ruby's story this season. But I think there's going to be continuation because Davies has already said he's got a 3-season arc that he wants to do.
Yeah, I don't know if her story's going to.
There's going to be a conclusion. I don't know if it's going to be the conclusion.
I don't think so.
We will get something. Let's talk about Susan Twist. Again, we talked about earlier how she is. They're starting to point out that we've seen you multiple times.
Yep.
They're allowing us, the audience, to be ahead of that a little bit, so we can have some fun speculating, which we're going to do now, very responsively and wildly. Some people have said she's Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter. From
hence the name Susan.
Susan Twist is a real name.
Whose real name?
Is
The actress's real
the
name?
actress's real name is
Oh,
Susan
okay.
Twist. I believe so. Yeah, Susan Twist. She was Penny Pepper Pettigrew in this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
yeah,
her
yeah.
real name is Susan Twist.
Yeah, yeah. Her name changes.
And she keeps
everything.
changing for each episode.
Right.
So a lot of people are saying that maybe she's Susan from the first
Yeah.
season for the granddaughter.
And that makes sense because he mentioned being there with his granddaughter.
And that rumor, that's where that rumor kind of started, that
Yep.
kind of conversation. I won't say rumor, that's not the right word, but that conversation started there. So, okay, cool. I can get behind that. I think if she's not that Susan, she is another doctor, like the Ward Doctor or the Fugitive Doctor. Because Davies has said he's taking elements from the Timeless Child.
Yeah.
Which means this is a version of the Doctor or the Doctor's companion, which that might be possible too.
Yeah.
But this is a version of the Doctor who we haven't been introduced to yet, which I'm totally okay with.
Or the Master. Although we never got a... Did we? We really didn't get a death of the last Master, right?
Well, Missy.
No. Missy wasn't the last Master.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah.
We didn't get an on-screen.
We didn't get... Well, that hasn't stopped them before. But it could... That would be very interesting. But it feels like that character is checking in on Ruby and all these different places and all these different timelines. So that lends me to believe that they are of Time Lord origins. Or, I'm spitballing here as we're figuring it out, she's the woman who finds the Doctor and the Timeless Child arc, because that scientist finds the child and they were able to kind of experiment and find the Time Lord abilities for everybody else.
Right.
So it could be that one where she's got the power. She had a child of her own. You know, I'm wildly speculating because they're giving us enough clues that this person is somebody, but not enough to go anywhere beyond that.
Yeah.
So it's allowing us, the fans, to go, if we take all the strings of Doctor Who, we wouldn't be able to move in the room because there's just so many strings. And all the Moffat ones are hanging off in the corner over there because they haven't been finished yet. But we've done a lot of bagging on Chibnall on this show. And I'm going to do it again. This is an example of how Chibnall missed the point, especially that first season with Jodie.
Yeah.
Of, yes, you can have these individual episodes and make it very approachable, and that's what all of these episodes we've gotten so far with Nchuti and Millie. Like, it's great.
Right.
But there's this thread, and there's this thread, and there's this thing, and there's this thing. Oh, by the way, the episode of Boom, the Doctor lost a key.
Yeah.
Nobody's talked about this. I'm going to start bringing it up. In Boom, at the end, when they're having the big conversation that death is okay, it's not the end of end of the world, it's just them moving on or whatever. He's patting himself down the entire time,
key.
and Ruby pulls the key out and hands it to him. So who has the key?
Yeah. Who has his key?
Who has his key?
Yeah.
And so you have that thread. You have this thread of who Susan Twist really is. You have this thread of who Ruby's real mom is. And why does she keep making it snow?
Yeah.
It didn't snow in this episode.
No, but after 73
yards.
73 yards. It was a thing in 73 yards.
Yeah.
So, is it done now, or is it?
Yeah.
Or did we just not have any? I mean, we kind of didn't really have a reason for it to snow. They weren't really in this episode all that much.
Yeah.
They were on the screen, but it was more about, what was going on.
People. Yeah. It's so I who Susan is in the story, and we have Mrs. Mrs. B, whatever, back in London, who
Obviously knows something
knows
because
something
she knows
that
what a
she's the
TARDIS
first.
is.
She's the first person, I believe. Somebody could correct me in the comments very nicely. She's the first person to ever break the fourth wall and talk to the audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
I
been times when the person on the screen is talking to the camera, but they're talking to the people behind them, which
Right.
is much what happened in this episode.
Right.
But her specifically talked to us.
Yes.
The audience said what
Yeah.
you've never seen.
And
TARDIS
I
before.
heard that a couple of people point that out, and I don't know. Like in modern Doctor Who, definitely not.
Yeah.
I haven't watched all of the classics, so I can't say.
Yeah,
But
it's on Pluto. Pluto TV's got an old classic Doctor Who
watch it
channel.
all day long.
Just pop it on and just let
Constantly.
it run in the background. Yeah, but I think Space Babies was mid, kind of middle of the road, whatever. I've liked every other episode we've done.
I put this one with Space Babies. It was fine, but not my favorite. 73 yards. Yeah, I'm with you. 73 yards and Boom are
Are great.
tied. I think I might like 73 yards a little better than Boom.
Just for the creepiness of it all.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
and yeah, just
Ruby going through her whole life.
yeah. There was
Kind of
there was a
thing.
lot. There were a lot of feels in that episode.
There was a couple memes I saw going around this week after we watched the episode. I actually went and actually looked at the internet. There were some memes. There was the boy who waited, Rory,
Right.
who waited.
Yep.
The
There
last
was the
Centurion.
girl who waited, which was Amelia.
Amelia. Yeah. So we have another who waited, who
Yep.
lived their whole life hoping for the Doctor's return.
Yep.
Something else I wanted to talk about that I forgot right here at the end because I keep bringing it up and I haven't seen anybody else talking about this yet. This was another episode where the resolution wasn't solved by the Doctor. There wasn't a resolution in this episode.
Right. Right.
I mean, the Doctor
They
told her where to
saved
go,
her.
but
Helped her get saved.
but Ricky Sunday was the one who saved Lindy, and then they all went off into the wilderness. There
Yeah.
was no real resolution to it.
Yeah.
And so, in 73 yards, it was Ruby, not the Doctor, who did it. So we have this trend going of the Doctor not saving the day. It's somebody else, and almost always it's the human who is saving the day, not the Doctor.
Right. Yep.
And I'm going to keep bringing it up until somebody tells me, somebody else is like, oh wait, I see that too, because it's a thing. It's a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And Kaylee Cook, who played Lindy, was amazing in the episode.
Yeah.
I thought she was really good.
Yeah.
For those of you on the YouTube channel, if we're doing the podcast and the YouTube channel at the same time, so go to Spotify, links in the description down below. If you see my shirt, this is Sherlock on the roof being saved and then falling down on the ground. That's how it happened. Tell
Yep.
me I'm wrong.
Yep.
Let us know you thought of this episode of Doctor Who in the comments down below. Please be nice. That is a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and Spotify. It's free. It helps us out. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.